Well, my latest book has a self-explanatory title. It's called The War We Never Fought, The British Establishment's Surrender to Drugs. We are told repeatedly by campaigners for looser drug laws that there has been a war on drugs in this country and that it has failed. And this is a fiction. There has been no such war. Since the early 1970s, the British state has covertly, and without openly admitting it, decriminalized several illegal drugs and given up any serious efforts to control demand for them, and particularly the prosecution of people for possession of drugs. The interdiction of demand has been abandoned. The police no longer bother cannabis users, and increasingly the users of Class A drugs as well. It's just they will make a big fuss about bothering suppliers, but there is no point in interdicting supply if you don't interdict demand, and that's what we've been doing. And I wrote the book to point out that the whole debate on drug laws was based on a falsehood. And as a result, the book has been widely unreviewed and widely undiscussed because it was inconvenient to the very, very powerful and extremely well-financed lobbies which are working for the decriminalization, particularly of cannabis. Well, immense troubles are already underway, and the main problem is that the portrayal of cannabis, which is essential to this campaign for its decriminalization as a soft and largely harmless drug, is simply false. And it does immense amounts of damage and is causing a great deal of mental illness, particularly among the young, as its use is extended down into school children aged 11, 12, 13 and 14, whose brains are not yet fully physically formed. The instance of mental illness following cannabis use, the correlation is now so strong that it is idle to say correlation is not causation. There has to be something there. All it needs is for the work to be done. Cannabis has reached the stage that cigarette smoking reached, say, 50 years ago, when it was clear to most intelligent people that it was a very unwise thing to do and that there was a correlation with lung cancer so strong that something should be done to prevent people from smoking cigarettes. The correlation between cannabis and mental illness is now equally strong, and the work needs to be done. But in the meantime, the last thing we need is to make it more readily available. Well, newspapers are not necessarily very nice. It's in their nature, particularly strong, commercially successful newspapers, and there will always be things about them that people will object to. And I sympathize with that, and I think that we could and should on many occasions have behaved better than we've done. But that's nothing to do with the issue of whether the press should be regulated by the state. Thomas Jefferson, in drawing up the American Bill of Rights, which enshrined press freedom in the First Amendment, said he would rather have newspapers without a government than government without newspapers. And he understood the immensely cynical nature of power in politics and the need for some important counterbalance to the cynicism of politicians. And a free press has been that counterbalance. I think it's a great mistake, however much you may disapprove of many of the things which have been done by many newspapers over the past 20 years, to sacrifice press freedom in a kind of emotional spasm, which actually has nothing to do with the issue. Oddly enough, the things for which people condemn newspapers, and for which I condemn them too, are already against the law. They don't need a press regulator to stop them. It's a dead debate. It's futile. This country doesn't have any control over its own borders. There is no such thing as a British passport. People don't put two and two together. When you come back to this country from abroad, you aren't asked to join a queue for United Kingdom passport holders because there is no such thing. Any other country, a real country that you arrive in, the United States, there's a queue for US citizens, but not here because a retired Lithuanian KGB colonel from Soviet days has as much right to enter this country as I do. And as a result, any talk of border control is simply gesture politics. This country does not have any control over its own borders. So politicians who talk about immigration as an issue are simply trying to fool the public. They have no power over this. They cannot say what is going to happen. They have no authority. And unless this country leaves the European Union and regains control of its own borders, they will not have any power. Well, I don't think that either Switzerland or Norway have had much in the way of problems by staying outside the European Union. I think Mexico has better trading arrangements with the European Union than we do, and it's not in. I would have thought that we could negotiate a better arrangement with our European friends and allies if we were not in the European Union than the one that we do have. Fundamentally, the European continent has a different style of politics, a different approach particularly to law and justice, a different approach to the free movement of peoples, to the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. And they're not compatible. And if two different kinds of doing things are not compatible and they merge together, one has to give way. And the problem has been that Britain, ever since it joined, has been giving up good things which it valued in return for nothing in particular. UKIP is a nuisance party. As with almost all such parties, it exists on the fringes of politics. It has no hope of power. That makes it, by its nature, irresponsible. It provides a safety valve. The real problem with our political system is that it's a two-party system. And if you're not one of those two parties, then you will not get a substantial body of members in the main legislative body. And UKIP performs a safety valve nuisance function and is not, in my view, a serious party. The serious issue is why the Conservative Party survives when everything that it does defies the wishes of its own members and supporters. It's not a Conservative Party at all. It is a New Labour Party, effectively. It's one of the great mysteries of modern times that the Conservative Party continues to survive. I can't see, if it were a commercial product, people know no one would buy it. If the Conservative Party were your car, it would be constantly beside the road, giving off clouds of steam and smoke. The Conservative Party were your accountant, you'd be bankrupt. If the Conservative Party were your lawyer, you'd be in prison. It is an entirely useless body. It defies all the rules of commerce or professional success, and yet, for some reason, people continue to vote for it.